SEC Kickoff with Vince Dooley is presented by PNC Bank for the achiever in you. Achievement is always in control. Find out how you can get control of your finances at pncvirtualwallet.com.
Hello, SEC fans. Welcome back to another edition of SEC Kickoff. I'm Vince Dooley. As we enter Week 8 of the regular season, several key matchups are on the horizon. The third Saturday in October is a tradition-rich date on SEC calendars. Before moving forward, let's take a quick look back at Week 7. The biggest game on the schedule was South Carolina visiting LSU. South Carolina at LSU. All eyes were on Baton Rouge last Saturday night as the Gamecocks, coming off a convincing and emotional win over rival Georgia, had the great task of playing an aroused bunch of LSU Tigers who had been badly wounded last Saturday in Gainesville against the Florida Gators. LSU's defense, ranked second in the nation, was at its best, holding South Carolina's star running back Marcus Lattimore to only 31 yards and sacking quarterback Connor Shaw 4 times. Meanwhile, LSU rushed for 258 yards against South Carolina's talented defense, highlighted by Jeremy Hill.
And off to the youngster. Hill breaks free. In a foot race. Can't catch it. How about this freshman?
Who rushed for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 50-yard scoring run late in the fourth quarter that virtually cinched the victory. The Gamecocks, however, fought back and scored, closing the margin to 2 points before finally losing their first game of the season, 23-21. In this week's Football 101, I want to discuss one of the popular plays you see in almost every game today. The zone read option is actually a very old play dating back to the wishbone and veer offenses of the 60s and 70s. Today, many teams run the zone read from a spread formation. Last Saturday night in Nashville, Florida quarterback Jeff Driscoll had a record-breaking performance running the read option and keeping it. Well, Florida runs the read option from a variety of sets. This is the third of 3 touchdowns that Driscoll scored, and the main problem with Vanderbilt's defense is that they were keying on Gillislee, the tailback, who had such a great running game against LSU the week before. So with an unbalanced line this way, Driscoll on the snap takes the ball and rides the tailback Gillislee. This caused the defensive end to come down, and in doing that, even the linebacker took the fake, and then with a block from the halfback, Gillislee comes out and goes untouched for 70 yards, which made it 177 yards to break Tim Tebow's record of 161 or so a few years ago.
Driscoll, 70 yards, touchdown.
There is no doubt Driscoll is one of the most improved players in the SEC this year. He has been one of the keys to Florida's success so far. In order for the Gators to continue rolling this weekend against South Carolina, Driscoll will need another big game. Here is what to look for when Steve Spurrier and his Gamecocks return to the Swamp for a big Eastern Division matchup with the Gators. South Carolina at Florida. The Gamecocks, for the third week in a row, will be facing a top 10 team in the Florida Gators, who currently are ranked 3rd in the country. There is no doubt South Carolina will be psychologically better prepared to play after the LSU loss, but their task is daunting. The Florida Gators should be at full strength, getting people back that were not able to play in the Vanderbilt game. The Gators lead the league in rushing offense. But the Gamecocks should be better prepared to stop the run after giving up so many rushing yards at the LSU game. The Swamp could be intimidating to the Gamecocks, so their offense with Connor Shaw and Marcus Lattimore will have to be a lot more productive than they were last week against LSU. Both South Carolina and Florida are complete teams with little differences in the two. So, as is always the case in those circumstances, the game more than likely will be decided by turnovers. As I mentioned earlier, the third Saturday in October is a date that's circled on the SEC calendar. This weekend symbolizes the annual matchup between rivals Alabama and Tennessee. For this week's SEC flashback, we jump back to 1990. Coach Gene Stallings' first year at Alabama was off to a rough start as his team traveled to Knoxville to face the number 3 ranked Vols. Great defense and late-game heroics helped this game add another chapter in this classic rivalry.
They're turning it over to Greg Burke on the field goal attempt. Watch the rush up inside.
A 50-yard attempt to give Tennessee the lead. It is blocked.
I just said the rush was going to come up inside. Alabama collapsed the inside. We said last week, when you take the key away from the kicker, which the rule stated this year, everybody changed their rush so that you rush inside so you can get the ball before it elevates. Watch Alabama all get their hands up and jump up and get their hands on it. Came from inside to tackle. Looks like number 1, Stacey Harrison, made the block from the left inside. Now Alabama's got the clock on their side to set up the field goal.
They are almost in field goal range for Phillip Doyle. Shovel pass. And it's Lamond Russell.
Well, you know Gary Hollingsworth on this play is going to try to set the field goal position up. Third down, look for something to the left here to get him in the middle of the field and then to call timeout.
Alabama has just 1 timeout left. Turner did not run to the middle. He's close to the right hash mark. Stopped at the 30. And that will set up a game-winning field goal try by Phillip Doyle. Alabama will let the time tick down. And Doyle will try to win it with about a 47-yarder. A 47-yarder to win it for Alabama. It is good!
Is that a flag on the field right here, roughing the kicker? So this game's over anyway.
Wow, what a finish in Knoxville. Without a doubt, that game helped Coach Stallings turn the tide at Alabama. In this week's Head Coach One-on-One, we hear from our son Derek as his team prepares to face number 1 Alabama. Derek gives his perspective on the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry.
What a great tradition. You know, our league is filled with so many traditions. It's what has made this league special. But even though I grew up on the sidelines at Georgia, I always watch that Tennessee-Alabama game, and if you were an SEC fan, it was hard not to watch it. So that's been a great rivalry. It's been a little bit skewed the last decade. You know, Tennessee went on a big run, and now Alabama's on a big run. So we got to try to make it competitive again, and we hope to do that this year.
Now that we've heard from Derek, let's look at the matchup. Alabama and Tennessee kick off at 7 Eastern on ESPN. Tennessee has taken the last 2 ranked teams, Georgia and Mississippi State, on the road down to the wire, but both of those teams prevail by making big plays. Georgia on defense, Mississippi State on offense. That will not be the case with number 1 Alabama, who has it all as a football team. They are number 1 in the nation in defense, number 1 in turnover ratio. They have a great leader at quarterback in A.J. McCarron, who has yet to throw an interception in 227 attempts, which is an amazing statistic. At the same time, the Tide probably has the best offensive line in the country with 2 all-star runners in Eddie Lacy and T.J. Yeldon. Tennessee is bruised up, but Tyler Bray and his two receivers, especially Cardell Patterson, one of the best big playmakers in the country, should keep it interesting for a while. But slowing down the grinding Alabama offense will be the biggest problem for Tennessee. While the games in Gainesville and Knoxville will get a lot of attention, there is one other game we'll be watching closely. Texas A&M and LSU get together in a key SEC West showdown Saturday in College Station. The game kicks off at noon Eastern and will be broadcast on ESPN. LSU at Texas A&M, this will be a real interesting game to watch. LSU will be coming off their great win against South Carolina, traveling to hostile College Station to take on the best dual quarterback in the nation in Johnny Manziel. Last week against Louisiana Tech in a wild 59-57 win, Manziel accounted for 6 touchdowns in running for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns and throwing for 395 yards and 3 more touchdowns for an amazing 576 yards of total offense, a school and an SEC record.
Manziel trying to put it into it. Johnny Football with a night to remember. Touchdown, Texas A&M.
He will be in much more danger against LSU, who has the speed to pursue this remarkable athlete. Plus, LSU will be using their grinding offense to keep the ball and keep the ball away from Manziel and keep him on the bench as long as possible. The Aggies have made a great impact in the SEC, and this will be their biggest test since their only loss to number 3 Florida. For those of you who will be in front of the TV on Saturday, here's the full broadcast lineup for this weekend's SEC games. Well, fans, it is officially time to kick off another SEC football weekend. No matter where you'll be, I hope you'll enjoy Football Saturday. I'm Vince Dooley, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week.
SEC Kickoff with Vince Dooley is presented by PNC Bank for the achiever in you. Achievement is always in control. Find out how you can get control of your finances at pncvirtualwallet.com.